Bible prints from my collection, Hannah's Boy Samuel. The print I want to share with you in the second video in my series is truly beautiful. The print is a lithograph, and it is from a children's book published around 1900. It still has many influences of the Victorian era in the rich colors and the portrayal of the boy. The story of Hannah and her son Samuel is indeed an amazing story of faith. Here, indeed, was a woman who made a promise to God, and she kept it. Promises to God are not to be taken lightly. Let's look at the account of Hannah's promise. Hannah, you see, wanted very much to have a son. Yearly, she and her husband would go to a place called Shiloh, and when they were there, they would take part in a large festival where everyone would celebrate all that God had done for them. And the people would give thanks for everything God gave them, and they would also give a sacrifice to God to show Him how thankful they were. Hannah wanted to be thankful like the others, but it was difficult for her. You see, the one thing she wanted so badly she did not have, and that was a child. In her heart, she felt a deep sadness over this. Her husband loved her and tried to make her feel better, but it seemed as though nothing would work. There was only one thing that she could do, and that was to continue to be faithful to God and to keep praying for what she desired. Sometimes she cried a lot and felt abandoned by God. Have you ever felt like Hannah did? I have from time to time, though I know He would rather that He would never abandon me. Hannah made a promise to God, and she prayed, "Dear God, if you would only look and see how sad I am and remember me, please give me a son. If you would do that for me, I will dedicate my son to you for his entire life." And Hannah meant it too. She was sincere in her promise. God does not take promises made to Him lightly. We need to know that we can keep our word to Him before we ever make a promise. As she prayed, a man named Eli, a priest, was sitting nearby, and he saw her. And while Hannah was praying, she was praying to herself. Her lips were moving, but Eli could not hear anything that she was saying. But Eli could see that Hannah was being honest and truthful with God, and he said to her, "Go in peace, and may God answer your prayers." And Hannah left, and she felt much better because she had spoken with God about what was bothering her. And early the next morning, she even went to worship God before she left her home. I may not have the same strong faith that Hannah had, but when the things of this world weigh heavy on my mind, and I talk to God about them, it feels like a weight lifted off my shoulders. There is nothing He will not forgive, and nothing He will not help us with if we take it to Him and trust Him with everything. Sometimes our prayer might seem to go unanswered or not fulfilled the way we would like. We should never, though I often have, we should never let this be a reason not to talk to God. Our minds cannot possibly understand how He works. Instead, we should thank God for the many things He has provided for us and then wait patiently on His time for answer to our prayer. After a while, something amazing happened for Hannah. God, of course, remembered, and God gave her a son, and Hannah named him Samuel. Hannah had waited so long for this child, and she loved him so very much, but just as God had remembered her and her prayer, she remembered that she had made a promise to God also. Hannah was an honest woman, and when she made a promise, she meant it. You see, Hannah had a really good attitude. Just as she had promised, she wanted to give Samuel back to God. She was not upset with herself for having made the promise. She knew God had richly blessed her, and Hannah kept her promise. When Samuel was old enough, she went back to the place where she had prayed and had said to Eli the priest, "Do you remember me? I am the woman that cried and prayed for this child, and God answered my prayer. Now I give him back to the Lord, and I will leave him with you to learn and work with you." So Samuel lived with Eli, and every year Hannah would pack up and visit him and bring him new clothes. It might have been hard for Hannah to see Samuel only once a year, but she wanted to keep her promise. That was most important to her. And God blessed Hannah again and gave her and her husband even more sons and daughters. Samuel did very well while staying with Eli the priest. Then one night, something unusual happened, and this is what is shown in the print that I'm sharing with you. Eli and Samuel had both gone to bed and were having sound sleep. When Samuel all of a sudden woke up, someone was calling to him. And Samuel thought it was Eli, so he ran to his bed and answered, "Here I am. You called for me?" But Eli said, "I didn't call for you. Go back and lie down." So Samuel went back to bed. He did not know this, but it was God that was calling to him. Just as Samuel got settled, God said to him again, "Samuel." Samuel jumped back up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am. You called for me." And again Eli answered him, "No, I didn't call you. Go back to bed." The Lord called Samuel a third time, and Samuel got up and went to Eli again and said, "Here I am, you called me." Eli could not figure out what was going on at first. He had been thinking, who could be calling Samuel? They were the only ones there. And then suddenly Eli realized there was only one way to explain this. So he told Samuel, "Go and lie down, and if you hear the voice again, say, 'Yes, Lord, I am listening.'" Samuel went back to his bed and lay down, and again the Lord called to him, "Samuel, Samuel!" And the boy quickly replied, "Speak, Lord, I am listening." And from that time on, Samuel knew when God wanted to talk to him, and he always listened. God blessed Samuel, and the boy grew up to be a great prophet and spokesman of the Lord. Hannah did the right thing, and God blessed her. But not only her, many people, as Samuel helped them to know God better. I need to always keep promises made to God. We know that in Him are many and all great blessings, and He's willing to give us what we need. Many times we need to show faith in waiting for His answer. But just as with Hannah, we will never forget. He will never forget us, nor will He abandon us.